LA City firefighters are taking funding concerns into their own hands. They arrived at the city clerk's office today with more than 225,000 signatures. The goal is to qualify a funding measure for the November ballot. It would increase hiring, upgrade equipment, and build new fire stations. Voters would decide whether to approve a sales tax hike in order to pay for it.
And coming up on the June primary ballot, voters in LA County will have to consider yet another increase to the sales tax. It's called Measure ER. Now, this half-cent tax would help support health care services. NBC4's Conan Nolan live on our newsroom with more on this measure for us. Conan.
That's right. So the goal is to backfill cuts to health care in what is the nation's most populous county. An LA County sales tax hike of a half-cent from 0.975% to 10.25%, which would even be higher based on where you live. It's part of the fallout from the Trump administration's Big Beautiful Bill, which dramatically cut federal aid for state-run health care programs. Los Angeles County officials say as a result, they're facing a $2 billion shortfall over the next 3 years.
This motion gives the voters a choice, given the stark realities that our county is facing.
In February, led by Supervisor Holly Mitchell, the LA County Board of Supervisors in a 4-to-1 vote agreed to put on the June ballot a sales tax hike of 0.5% for the next 5 years. Health officials say without the increased revenue in Measure ER, 500,000 low-income residents of the county will lose health care, with reverberations to the entire hospital system.
Clinic closures, hospital closures. We run some of the biggest emergency rooms in the country. People who experience car accidents, trauma, they come to our 2 level 1 trauma centers for services. If those hospitals don't have continued access to care, that will touch everybody.
It supports health programming that allows us to track and mitigate against outbreaks and communicable diseases. It allows us to respond to environmental threats, both threats that happen during the fire, threats that happen to our water and our air and our soil.
But opponents argue that increasing costs to consumers in LA County won't raise nearly as much as proponents believe, that at some point consumers will shop elsewhere.
40 cities in LA County, if Measure ER passes, will have a tax rate of over 11%. If you go to Riverside County or San Bernardino County or Ventura County or Orange County, the average tax rate is roughly 7.25 to 7.75. That is a 4% difference in tax. That's a huge difference.
Former LA County Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky.
In the surveys we've done and have been done by other institutions, they all say the same thing. There's a limit to what people are willing to tax, how much they're willing to tax themselves. And this is going to be a test of that proposition.
Mr. Yaroslavsky, who runs the Yaroslavsky Institute at UCLA, points out there are a number of sales tax increases on the ballot in cities throughout the county. That, plus the hike in gasoline costs and inflation, could doom Measure ER. It only needs a simple majority to pass. I'm Conan Nolan, NBC4 News.